Vamos entonces a dar inicio a lo que se llama este segmento de EMRAP Live o EMA Live, en donde la idea es poder discutir 3 artículos muy interesantes que salieron. 3 artículos que salieron publicados durante este año y discutir algunas cosas puntuales de los artículos y que estamos seguros que pueden cambiar nuestra práctica. Al final del día, de eso se trata el concepto, ¿cierto? De poder entregar algunas perlas importantes de cómo actuar y también que ustedes se logren interesar por la especialidad y poder generar estas preguntas de manera oportuna. Así que el Twitter, atentos, cualquier pregunta vamos a estarla recibiendo durante la conferencia, la charla después de cada artículo. Vamos a dar un par de minutitos, si el tiempo lo permite, para que ustedes hagan preguntas respecto a la discusión, ¿ok? Por WhatsApp, entonces, esto está abierto, van a estar muy atentos aquí a también interrumpirnos a nosotros para poder resolver esas dudas, ¿ok? Además está decir que este formato también está presente en EMRAP Live online, en donde Mel con varios expertos de Estados Unidos discuten siempre algunos de estos temas. Ok, vamos, next. Audio, por favor. Atrás.
Been the leader in emergency medicine education. It still is. But now, you know what? It's so much more. Now, it's an entire learning system for your emergency medicine career. And in the last 2 years, we've added a huge amount of content. There's a lot going on here. So let's take it step by step. Here's just some of the features that you'll get with your subscription. All of the most recent content will appear here, but you can sort by channel. You can look at MRAP, C3, EMA, HD. Now, of course, MRAP is still the same great monthly show with all the cutting-edge info to keep you at the top of your game, but we've also added C3, continuous core content, an approach to common and serious ED presentations for students, residents, advanced practice providers, and even the 30-year vet. And then there's EMA. EMA is emergency medical abstracts, clinically relevant reviews of 30 articles a month summarised and synthesised, so you don't have to. It also includes a robust, searchable 40-year database of the best literature in emergency medicine. MRAP HD is where all the videos live of procedures, EKG courses, imaging, live events, and so much more. And we do live-streamed events every month of education that is interactive with you, the subscriber. And if that wasn't enough, you also get written summaries, question sets, and up to 10 hours of CME.
Actually, it's 12 hours of CME.
Every month for one inclusive price. And guess what? We never stop adding new content, ever. And it's all in one place, with one password, for one price. Because anything can walk through the doors of the emergency department. And you've got to be ready. Because what you do really matters.
Fantastic. I love that video because it makes me look like I have superpowers. Then my son was telling me that what's the world's worst superpower? The ability to turn things lukewarm. I don't have that superpower. So let's talk about cardiac arrest. We know that the majority of people in Chile and the US and through most of the world will ultimately have a final cardiac event. And a lot of those people have hearts that we believe are too good to die. That if we could get you back, that you might live a long time. Well, that was the original idea of resuscitation in cardiac arrest. It was the original idea for CCUs, that there's a subset of these patients that we should get back. Unfortunately, what's happened in the last 50 years is that we now, everybody that dies, we put them through this thing where we do chest compressions and break their chest and we sprinkle special solutions on them, and it's all part of this moving you into the next world. So we've gone too far, but still it is sort of a standard thing in industrialized countries to bring the ambulance to you and try and get you back. And so one of the drugs that we use is epinephrine. So as I say, it's been in the ACLS guidelines for 50 years. Has there ever been a study that shows that it works?
No.
No. There has been a study in rabbits that showed that it worked for rabbits. And that's what the last 50 years is based on. They took some rabbits, they put them into cardiac arrest, they gave them some epinephrine, they defibrillated them. There were more rabbits alive at the end than without the epinephrine. But since then, there's really been nothing. Epinephrine, is an alpha agent and a beta agent. The alpha agent will increase your diastolic flow. Maybe that improves coronary perfusion, and that's good, but it also has a lot of beta effects, a lot of tachycardia, a lot of bad things. In the last few years, there's been a few big trials. This is now the biggest trial to date about the effect of epinephrine. So 8,000 patients. This is a UK study. And they did, you're dead, we defibrillate you, and then we randomize you to epinephrine or to saline. So a big study of 8,000 patients. And they looked at the most important thing, which was two things, actually. 30-day outcome, were you alive or were you dead? And then the most important thing, were you alive and neurologically intact? And so if you just look at the 30-day mortality of all these patients, thousands and thousands of patients, there is a very small difference between the outcomes in terms of death. A few more people were alive if they got epinephrine. The number needed to treat is about 100 to 115. So you treat 115 people and one more person will be alive. That's pretty good, right? Epinephrine doesn't cost any money, so that would be a reasonable thing, right? Except that's not the most important outcome when you look at cardiac arrest. The most important outcome is how many people are alive and how many people recognize their family members. How many people are alive and can eat dinner without it drooling down the front of their shirt. Being neurologically intact is the most important thing. And in this study, they found there was no difference. So what happened actually is that you got more people having return of spontaneous circulation, and then they would stay in the ICU on average, we think, about 20 days. So in the ICU for 20 days, and then they would die. Yeah. So I would suggest to you that this study not only shows that epinephrine is not as good as saline, it is much, much worse. Because these people ultimately died or were devastated neurologically and cost society hundreds of thousands of dollars. So just as with lidocaine, with amiodarone, with high-dose epi, I think that epinephrine is dead, but should only be used in very specific circumstances. So, Barbara, what do you think?
So, Mel, are you suggesting that we should stop using adrenaline for cardiac arrest? Oh my God, what's that?
Yes.
No, you're the devil.
Yes. I want to know what Barbara thinks.
I agree. I think if you're just giving them a chance to be drooling, I think that's not fair. And I would write on my forehead, I don't want epinephrine if I ever drop dead.
I might agree with you guys, but the study is really good. They did the things quite in a proper way, I think, in terms of the methods of the study. But it seems that, well, this is a pre-hospital setting, so as far as I know. Yeah. It's called the paramedic 2. That's why we put a slide of a paramedic, so you can remember that. But it takes them quite a lot of time, long time, to get to the ER. Isn't that true, Mel?
Yes, so the average time to get to the patient was 6 minutes, which is pretty good. It was then 13 more minutes before they got their epinephrine, but it was 50 minutes by the time they got back to the ER. So this is a European system where they stay and play instead of just rapid transport. So that might have some effect, it might not.
Yeah, but we're talking about giving adrenaline, like if we add the numbers, like 20 minutes after a witness arrest. So it seems a long time to me.
Well, I think maybe in the States, it might be a bit faster. But I guess for us in Chile, we do have a registry in Sotero del Rio, and we know that at least half of our patients arrive by cab. I told you that before. Half of our patients in cardiac arrest, I took where their family members put in a cab and then transferred to the ED. So 20 minutes sounds more like what we could extrapolate for our data, maybe not for the US, or you could ask about it, but I think it's very similar to what we do.
So, yeah, I agree. I mean, I think we should now say a take-home point, a concepto about this thing. So, Mel, please, give us the food about this. Last thing.
I think it's as Scott Weingart said, we should take epinephrine out of routine care. So ACLS algorithms, we should take it out as a routine. But if you as an individual clinician believe that this is a circumstance where it might help, it's an early witnessed arrest, maybe with VFib, because there's some evidence that it's better for VFib than other things, then maybe you should use it. But as a routine, I don't think we should be doing this as a routine.
Thanks. Next slide, please. What does the
They have a few questions. I don't know if we
there
have
it is.
time for
There's
it.
discussion. So, what does the public says? El público. ¿Qué dice el público? Pregunta aquí, por favor. Next question.
The mic is not working for the question.
Please, the mic for the question. El micrófono, por favor, las preguntas. Sí, eso.
Number one, Mike.
Number one.
Do you want to come with
Dígala
me?
en voz alta y nosotros repetimos.
Stream, we'll repeat it.
So she's asking if the patients at the study were on VFib, ventricular fibrillation, or VT? Mel.
So most were in asystole PEA, and about 20% were in VFib, which is interesting because all of these big studies, it used to be most people were in VFib 80%, and now it's 20%, and it's the other rhythms. So things have really changed. I don't really know why.
All right, let's move to the next study. This is Mel on the bathroom. That was Mel. Thank you, Mel. So this is the Pamper study. So it was done on the pre-hospital setting. I think this is the best one because it showed a lot of interesting things. So I will be very, very brief on describing the study. So what they did, they pick up very sick trauma patients, very, very sick trauma patients that were hypertensive at the scene, and they put it on a helicopter and then fly them to the closest trauma center that were recruiting these patients. Found 501 patients, very sick as I mentioned, and they compared giving them at the helicopter plasma or normal saline. What were the results? 30-day mortality reduction from 22.3 on the plasma group against 33% on the other group. Take a look at that number. Number needed to treat of 10. That's amazing. I mean, it reduces mortality. The only bad thing I would say on our discussion is that we don't have helicopters. At least we do. Yeah, we do. But not in the fourth world, as Mel mentioned, we do have in the first world of our city. It's expanding, we know, but we know this data now, and maybe we could do some new things. So let's discuss this a little bit. If you have any questions or something else to add, please, Mel or Barbara.
I would just repeat that they were very, very sick patients. So they were hypotensive and probably needed further resuscitation later. And I agree with you. And plasma is very hard to get. And you would need to, and these were thawed plasma. So they had it ready to go, which is another issue that we always have even when we get resuscitation or trauma patients in our resuscitation room. That's expensive in general. Helicopter, thawed plasma. But I guess it's worth it.
Oh,
for
yeah,
healthy
worth
people.
it. I mean, it reduced many outcomes. It's combined outcomes. We won't talk about that, but just think about plasma and trauma. We knew that from other studies before, but it actually improves mortality.
So this is part of a continuing theme that makes sense. If you're a sick trauma patient, average blood pressure 70, average heart rate 115, you're dying, you're in shock, you're bleeding out blood and plasma. It's stupid to put back in water. You need to put back in the stuff that's coming out. So that's what we've been learning in the last sort of decade. Put back the red stuff, or at least some of the red stuff. We know that now. The question is, what's the best thing to do in a pre-hospital care setting? I think the most exciting thing, and it wasn't studied here, is frozen or freeze-dried plasma. That it's available, it lasts for about 2 years, and you just reconstitute it in the field, and then you inject that. But we don't have a study on that product yet, so we have to wait and see.
Very, very interesting. And so, do we have one question about this? Please, mic number one.
Mic one?
Okay.
Can we get the mic one on?
Sorry, number two now.
Two. Dos?
Yeah.
I see.
When it comes to budget, which one is better, plasma versus red blood cells or whole blood?
This is a totally different question. We're talking about just giving them plasma. if we talk about money, all of these products are quite expensive, are very expensive. In Santiago, in a private place, we can have only for one red blood pack sale over 100,000 pesos in Chile. But that's not the aim of the study. They didn't do it like a financial analysis on that. So I will be happy to share more info on Twitter or other accounts. Since we have to be on time, and we have one more paper to go, Barbara will continue.
1 minute paper.
1 minute paper. What's yours?
Yes. So this one is a SMART trial and talks about which kind of crystalloid we need to give patients to reduce the chance to have renal failure or die. Because there's been a discussion that is going on for many, many years. And this is probably the biggest trial and the better done trial, because it has a lot of flaws, but it's the best we have right now. And they randomize a lot of patients, 1,600 patients, 1,000 patients, sick patients that were coming not only from the emergency department, just half of them came from the emergency department, the other half came from the operating room, from the ward, and from other places in the hospital. And the sick ones that they decided that we're going to go to the ICU, they basically randomize every month. So in January, they will get saline, and in February, we'll get balanced fluids, so lactated ringer or Plasma-Lyte. And what they found is that the difference, or the major outcome was mortality and kidney failure or need for kidney renal replacement. And they found a difference of 1%, so 14 versus 15%. That's a number needed to treat of 91, just in the middle of the two of you. But that was for the main composite outcome. So they couldn't find a difference between mortality or need for kidney replacement separately. And as I said, it is a okay study, but the biggest one. And the question now is, do we need to keep using saline if ringer lactate seems to be a little bit better in terms of this outcome?
That's really a smart question, and it's how the paper is named. Smart. That's why we have Einstein there. What do you think, Mel, about Barbara's reflection?
So, two quick things. One, when you have to do a study of 16,000 patients to find a 1% difference, and that's not mortality, that means there's not much difference between the two groups. And so I think you're safe to use either solution. There's not a big difference. But the key thing in this is the subgroup in sepsis, that maybe that subgroup would do better with balanced solutions than saline. We need a big study to see if that's true, but I think the take-home message is there's not a big difference. I don't know the cost difference. In the US, the cost difference is not very much.
It's not here either. And 20% of them were septic patients, and the difference in the primary outcome was 5% for that group, if you're interested. And the other thing, one of the flaws of this study is they only receive 1 liter of either fluid, which is not that much. And then you even include TBI patients and other patients that we are not really sure why they needed fluids in the first place. So we have a few questions about the methodology of that study. But we're going to do one in sepsis, right?
Yeah, sure. We will.
With 16,000 patients.
Well, this is done by the ICU folks. So we don't have exactly the data on what happened at the ED. That what is our
Well, they mentioned that most of them, because it was a monthly thing, most of them got the same fluid according to the same month. So you would expect, that's what they say. You would expect that was okay.
Okay, so that was the last one. I hope you enjoyed this methodology of discussing articles with very specific questions to answer. This is the last lecture that Mel is giving today. Mel es la última presentación que hace, así que les quiero pedir nuevamente un gran aplauso para Mel por haber venido a Chile y por seguir apoyando el desarrollo de la medicina de urgencia, no solo en nuestro país, sino que, como él mostraba en su proyecto de poder ayudar a todos los países en vía de desarrollo, a América Latina. en el desarrollo de la especialidad y sobre todo poder ayudar a la gente que más lo necesita. Así que nuevamente, Mel, muchas gracias por estar acá y esperamos que puedas volver el próximo año. Tenemos fecha, próximo año, lo diremos pronto. Muchas gracias.
Gracias.
Adiós a todos.